And we're back. It's taken a little while to get to 20, Chris, but here we are. How you doing?
It's good to be here at 20. I remember we started at 1.
It's a big day in the world of
It is.
tangibly, man. All right, so extraterritorial. Say that 3 times. Extraterritorial.
No kidding.
Today,
It's tough to
we're
say.
talking about extraterritorial reach. We got to come up with a better word, I think, first and foremost. Anyway, today we're talking about the Xcoal case versus a person, a Japanese gentleman. Um, and we have a few other examples of this extraterritorial reach under DTSA, but super interesting. So, Chris, why don't you walk us through the Xcoal facts, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, Tim. And it's a great series of cases we're going to talk about because it really shows or addresses the question of how far can DTSA really reach? Is it local? Is it state? Is it nationwide? Is it planet wide? Is it universal? So,
And
this case
just for
is
our listeners, one more, Chris. Sorry, DTSA. I know if we have a new listener, what's DTSA again?
sure. So, yeah, DTSA is the Defend Trade Secret Act in the US, which made trade secret misappropriation eligible for pursuing in federal court. So, it was a very big statute. It's about 10 years old now, and it's really had a huge transformative effect on trade secret litigation. It's a
Amen.
growing field.
Thank you.
So what happened here was a Japanese person was working remotely for a Pennsylvania company. Did all his work in Japan. As far as we can tell, he never set foot in Pennsylvania, or at least for the 2 years before the misappropriation was alleged. He
Yep.
never even entered the US. So, but then decided to quit his job and go to work for yet another Pennsylvania company. And before leaving the first company, he downloaded lots and lots of computer files, like a lot of people in these lawsuits do. So it's a pretty normal fact pattern.
Yep.
The interesting thing is the first company, Xcoal, didn't want to try to go after him in Japan, but wanted to sue him in district court in Pennsylvania. So it really raised this question of, can a US district court in Pennsylvania have jurisdiction over this guy in Japan who never set foot in the US or even in Pennsylvania? So it's a very good question, and it was raised in the motion to dismiss. So the Japanese defendant said, yeah, this case has no merit because
Yep.
I'm sitting here in Japan,
Right.
go away, basically. So that
Yep.
that was kind of the setup. And again, it's not a super creative or unusual fact pattern. It's just interesting because of the Japan angle to it.
He's sitting in Japan. And what is he, because this is an active case, right? What is he accused of stealing exactly?
Well, it was just a lot of business information. So he was, I forget exactly his business role, but he wasn't a scientist, wasn't an engineer, wasn't a software guy. But again, he downloaded many, many, many files just before leaving the company.
And what is Xcoal? Xcoal does it's some kind of analytics.
No, I think it's an energy and resource company.
It's mining services.
Hmm.
Let's see. Operational leadership and direction for mining operations, specializing in underground coal.
Yeah, so
Is it
it's minerals and resources and drilling and all that good, messy, dirty technology.
all right? So they help manage coal mines, I guess. Anyway, who
Yeah,
knew?
so
What was his role again? He was a marketing manager. Is that right?
yeah, he was a marketing manager of a Japanese subsidiary. So the parent company was in Pennsylvania, US
I
company.
see.
They
Yeah,
had a Japanese wholly owned sub, and then he
I
was an
see.
employee of that sub living and working in Japan.
Got it. And so Is he the only defendant named in this case? The
I
other Pennsylvania company is not a defendant?
is not named. So the company that hired him, the second employer, is not a
Right.
named party.
Why not?
Well, it could be that they didn't know about the information. Maybe they said, we don't want to know about the information as part of an HR onboarding process.
Yeah.
Short answer is I don't know. But if there had been a good reason to include them, they would have been included because they would be much deeper pockets
Yeah.
and potentially much higher damages if they were the ones actually using the information.
Right.
It's different than Motorola Hytera, where the new
Yeah.
employer intentionally hired a team to get the information and to use the
Right.
information. It might
Right.
be that Aluma Resources had clean hands and they hadn't done anything wrong yet.
Yeah. Okay. And so this Xcoal case is ongoing. Wait and see what happens here, but it's survived the motion to dismiss. Yeah.
Correct.
So another, I think, great example of the reach of DTSA. If something goes wrong in your business in the US and there's a ex-US or extraterritorial element to it, it's starting to look more and more like DTSA is your friend. And the Motorola Hytera case is probably the best example, especially because there's damages there. Maybe just a couple words on that case. And I know there's one more that we want to touch on here.
Yeah, Motorola Hytera was it's a little easier case because like Hytera was acting badly. Um,
Yeah.
which makes it a little simpler. Also, the damages were massive. I mean, it was a multi hundreds of millions of dollars in damages.
Yep.
Uh, Also interesting because there was a copyright claim involved. There isn't one here. Uh, but yeah, that one was sort of the big change of saying you can go after people. In that case, they were working in Malaysia. But
Yep.
this one in Japan also kind of reinforces that idea that you need some degree of contact with the US, but it's really small.
Yeah.
As long as you have some answer to that question, it seems like the US district courts are happy to take a DTSA case that's international, as long as there's even a sliver of connection back to the US.
Yeah, that's right. And what about this Canadian case we surfaced as well? That one, what was the name of that one again? GTY Technology Holdings, doing business as Unis Solutions, Chicago-based company along with its affiliate. Um, and they filed a lawsuit against Wonderware and a Canadian citizen defendant, a former remote employee, alleging misappropriation under DTSA. And so maybe more than anything, this is also just a great wake up call, um, to remote employees outside of the US. If you, if you feel like you're outside of the reach of the man, maybe you should rethink that.
Yeah, in the Canadian case, there were meetings in the US, so there was some travel involved. They went to
Okay.
Chicago. So I'd say it's a little more obvious an answer than Xcoal, where there was absolutely no contact at all with the US physically. But it's kind of reinforcing the same idea that even a simple meeting where people met and talked was enough
Yeah.
to get dragged into US federal court.
Right.
Yeah, this is also great for US companies that have servers in the US or have international employees visit.
Yep.
It's very easy to get those international people into a courtroom if something bad happens.
And just back to Xcoal for a second. The alleged like action was really where it touched the US was just tapping into a US server, downloading a bunch of stuff.
And that's really the only contact that this guy had with the US. He didn't travel.
Interesting.
It was pretty much just downloading on the server. But
Interesting.
even that is enough. So
So I wonder,
it's hard to imagine that you'd have a situation where you contact the US, but it's
yeah,
insufficient. I don't know what
yeah.
that is.
But if you take this Xcoal case, and this is just sort of thought experiment, if you say, okay, everything's the same, this guy downloaded a bunch of stuff, but because it was a Japanese sub, like that data actually sat in Japan, just a simple
Okay.
example. Maybe this case doesn't happen. What do you think?
Well, but in Motorola, there was a mirror server in Malaysia,
Right.
and that was
Yeah.
found to be enough where it mirrored the servers back in Chicago. So, yeah, it would make it a more interesting question, but my guess is it would still be enough to get dragged into court.
But I think
Now,
the
the
mirror,
other thing is that the Japanese sub could go after this guy in Japan. So, Japan does
right.
have trade secret statutes. Typically, the damages are not as high, so maybe they made a decision to go after them in the US.
Well, it doesn't look like they're probably looking for damages, right? For suing a person.
Not a whole lot. I mean, my guess is they'd be happy with returning all the information, and getting some kind of agreement out of them. This will probably settle realistically, but yeah, it doesn't seem to be a huge cash cow, and especially where the new employer isn't a
Yeah.
named party, the damages are probably going to be fairly minimal.
Yeah. But on the Motorola Hytera case, it's a good point. Yeah. But I do think like that mirrored server was like super important
Mhm.
to that case, wasn't it not?
It was. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a lot of discussion about, is that
Yeah.
enough?
Yeah. Interesting.
But even in Motorola, there were meetings again in Chicago in person, so that helped as
That's right.
well.
Yeah. Interesting. So this is actually something I haven't really thought through in terms of guidance for companies. But I would say, yeah, if you're using a remote employee and you've got sensitive information, and let's just say, we run into this where it's like we'll say, we have a customer in Australia and like they need to have their tangibly data on an Australian server. Okay, fine. And so I'd say there is a general default these days to wanting the data of the company, Japanese sub in this case, in Japan, right? But if you're a US company and you want maybe a little more certainty around DTSA, you might really want to think about that server strategy, right? Like it's fine to have that server in Japan. You may just want to have a mirror in the US and make that clear that this is US data.
Yeah,
You
I
see where
think,
I'm going?
having a server strategy is a good idea. You might also intentionally fly key employees to the US like once a year or something to have a week-long meeting. Anything to make it easy for the courts to say there was sufficient contact with the US to give
Interesting.
jurisdiction, and the
Okay.
case can move forward. So there's a few
Interesting.
different ways to do it, but you want, as a trade secret owner, you want to make life as easy as possible for the court to say, let's continue to discovery and trial.
Yeah. Yeah, so that contact, I guess, yeah, you could also argue, hey, they're on Zoom calls with the US, every week. I mean that one probably hasn't been tested yet.
Hasn't been tested yet. It's a little less contact. I don't know how to explain it, but it
Yeah,
feels
yeah.
like that's a weaker argument than downloading from a server or flying to Pennsylvania for a week.
Being in Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah, Chicago in the winter.
The trade secret honey trap. Yeah,
Mm.
we're bringing you to Chicago. Sorry. We need DTSA on our side. It's funny. Okay. Anything
But
else
these
on
these
this?
cases
Yeah.
are really interesting, and again, from a trade secret owner perspective, all three of these cases are good news.
Yeah, super good news. Yeah. Super good news. All right, man, let's tie it off. Extraterritoriality. Yeah, I think I got those right.
You got it three
All
say it 3 times fast.
right.
Okay,
Good stuff,
podcast number
Chris.
20 is in the
Awesome.
bag and international.
Done.
We'll
See you,
talk
man.
soon.
All right, later.